But now, time for our special show, that is RWI Champion, where we talk to a special guest. And this week's champion is a special man who wears many entrepreneur hats, from toothbrush manufacturing to a lot of many other things.
Absolutely. In fact, to setting up one of the first corporate studios in India and, founding one of the leading edtech companies, upGrad, Ronnie Screwvala has just got started. Ronnie Screwvala is a first-generation Indian entrepreneur, philanthropist, opinion leader and author. Ronnie's first foray was cable TV in India before he saw an opportunity in toothbrush manufacturing, and after many setbacks went on to build one of the largest toothbrush operations in India at a time where there was no ecosystem for PE funding or bank debt for startups. Ronnie went on to build the popular media and entertainment company UTV, where he divested his stake to Walt Disney in 2012. In his next phase, Ronnie is the founder of upGrad, a leading edtech platform, RSVP Movies, 3 sports teams under the brand U Mumbai in kabaddi, volleyball and football, and he also runs an NGO, the Swades Foundation, which is committed to empowering 1 million lives in rural India. Hi Ronnie, welcome to Rise with India. It's a pleasure to have you today, and you're truly what we call the Rise with India champion. Clearly you wear many entrepreneurial hats. In fact, where do I start from? Should I start from the toothbrush manufacturing, the cable TV business? Of course, you set up UTV, which was one of the first corporate studios in India, and now of course with upGrad, you run your NGO as well. So there are too many things happening there, but as an entrepreneur, when you look back,
all sequential.
It's all sequential. Absolutely. But, in one person's lifetime, there are too many things to do. I mean, clearly, you've aced all of them. But tell us, in retrospect, as an entrepreneur, what have been your biggest learnings through your hits and misses? And mind you, there have been a lot of failures as well, as you talk about them.
Well, firstly, I don't think there's anything called in retrospect, because in hindsight is actually a waste of time. Because actually, when you look back on things, and if you say, if only I'd done this, but you forget about the 9 other things that would have happened at the time at which you would have only done this, that would have actually changed your destiny. So actually, I don't spend much time on introspection. But I think if I had to look back, I think focus would have been one of them. I think today what I'm seeing here with entrepreneurs across the board is the ability to focus. I think we hit our glass ceilings too early in life, and then we start looking at diversifying and doing many things. So I think my career would be encapsulated with being a first-generation entrepreneur. At a time when there were only devils, not angels, so to speak, in the sense that no angel investment, no bank loans.
Absolutely.
I think media was the first part of my life. Education, learning, skilling, workforce development is the second. And I think in between this storytelling in the soft power sense to the storytelling in the learning, skilling and inspirational sense in education, there's what I would call the other half of India, which is rural India and the empowerment. So that's how I would actually look at the pyramid structure and keep it a lot more in that hemisphere.
Right.
Ronnie, the way Ankita just mentioned that you have so many entrepreneur hats to your name. People know you for RSVP also. People now know you for upGrad also. People know you for even for your sports team also, U Mumbai also, and for Swades Foundation also. And entrepreneurs or budding startups who are watching us know you as an investor also, private equity investor also. What is, in your 30 years of rich experience, what would be the advice that you want to give to our budding entrepreneurs, aspiring startups who are watching us?
Well, maybe 2 things. One is actually the title of your program, right? Because I wouldn't be where I am if the opportunity in the country didn't offer itself. So I think you're absolutely appropriate about the fact that Rise with India means rise with the environment. Opportunities can only be there if the ecosystem is there. And I think I've seen that change evolve for the better. I know many people say challenges and workplace and many challenges of doing business in India. Actually, that's not necessarily true, because I tell all those entrepreneurs, if you want to go to a very mature market, it'll be so competitive that you'll be out of business in 15 days.
Yes.
So actually, sometimes I think people miss out on the opportunity that while it's not that difficult to do business, but it's challenging. That's actually your moat sometimes. So, and I think that gives you the ability. So I think the ability that the environment and Rise as the India opportunity is given would
But
be
it
one.
must be difficult, Ronnie, maintaining a moat not just in one field. You've maintained in various different fields. The one field is different, completely different from another one.
Well, yes and no. I think domain expertise today transcends everything else. If you get the core right, as I said, I was trying to encapsulate that I think media is about, at the core, is storytelling. We're having a conversation here, you ask me questions, I'm telling my story. That's what connects there. Education, learning, skilling, workforce development, whatever you want to look at there, at the core of it, you remember your professors, the two people who taught you in the best possible manner in school and in college. So there's this common theme in the domain knowledge that if you want to improve your soft skills. I'm a product of soft skills. I didn't study that much, but I think I'm sitting here because of my soft skills. And I think today in India, that soft skills element in learning and the soft power element in media, if I can bring and take that to the next level, I think there's still another 10 to 20 years of work to be done there.
Right, but Ronnie, you have been known as a media pioneer. Of course, you set up one of the first corporate studios in India with UTV. Now you've stepped into the space of edtech with the upGrad.
I wouldn't call it edtech, but go ahead. I think edtech got a bad name with one or two other people who came in.
I'm just mentioning that. I'm coming to that. I'm actually coming to that because what is your sense of this space? Because your competitors, if you will, that was touted to be this huge startup star, Byju's, from being this, edtech space hero, unicorn, to being now cash-strapped. What is the sense that you're getting picking up from this space, and what is motivating you here?
There are 1.4 billion people who need to be upskilled. There are many people who need to do that. I don't think we need to worry about one company that got overfunded by 51 investors and a founder and then went sideways.
Yeah.
I think that is completely immaterial. The element of where we need to go with skilling, where people need to get job opportunities in this country, where we need to be self-employed in many ways, where entrepreneurship needs to be taught, it's a massive market. I think we should not even distract ourselves. And frankly, if it wasn't for the media, it wouldn't be in the news. It would have already been in its graveyard.
Right.
So I think the sector, and I wouldn't call it edtech, right? Because it just got that name tech because at that time it was easy for some companies to fund. Today, if you want to ask everyone, they'll want to add the prefix or suffix of AI. So now everyone will call it ed AI or pharma AI or medi AI.
What do you prefer calling it then?
No, I think basically the element, see, education is a calendared event.
Right.
But today, I think what most companies in this field, and especially like upGrad, are doing is focused on reskilling, the opportunity to give people to do online what offline will never give you for the next 100 years, because you don't have the opportunity to leave your work and go forward. And that every 5 years you need to upskill yourself. So if you take that at the core, it's a massive market, a massive need.
Right.
And that's where we're here to fill it.
Right.
All right. Ronnie, do tell us about your RSP movies also. Is it that you want to go more into theatrical releases, and with the rise and expansion of OTT, the scale of OTT, would you want to expand in OTT? What is the scenario looking like?
So for RSVP, I don't give it much thought because it's a hobby and a passion. I think when I built media and built UTV, which by the way was not just a movie studio, we had 10 broadcast channels, we had a business news channel, we had an animation studio, but obviously the high profile emphasis of it is always the movies part of it.
Right.
But when I divested that to the Walt Disney Company and after 5 years decided to look at it, today it's a passion project and I enjoy it because I can say no 99 times and yes 1 time. And I think that's the liberating part. In a creative field, if you can have the power to say no 99 times and yes 1 time and you can be selective, then you're doing the right thing. So I think this is movies that I want to make, stories that I think I want to tell, along with a great bunch of 3 or 4 creative people who are my colleagues. And we don't have to do anything. We want to do anything. So it's a great place to be. So hobbies and a passion project, any day, any time, has a very different connotation.
Okay.
Coming specifically to media, yes, I think it's gone through its stage of overall, not just because of technology. Most of us think it's technology, but actually the consumer has changed. The consumer habit has changed.
Yeah.
The consumption pattern has changed. And don't forget, India has always been a country where people are not open to paying for content. That's been there since 1990s all the way to 2024. So 34 years and you haven't had that change. So I think the environment here today, at one stage there was television, then there was DVD, now it's OTT, and that entire cycle will go through where we want to go because audiences will choose where they want to see it.
But the way you said that people don't want to pay for content, do you think the space is going to get more competitive with lower prices, lower
Especially
premiums,
with Jio coming in?
with Jio coming in?
See, I think, well, one is sports has entered the arena of what you call media and entertainment in a big manner, right? So when you take that kind of behemoth, and especially on that with cricket, that suddenly created live hours of content that you can't compete with, because that viewership is of a very different nature. It's a little bit like an advanced country where actually sports overtakes most of the other media. So we never really looked at sports with media. But today, that's kind of meshed here. So when you look at the OTT platforms, they're mostly there, not only for their original content, but a lot buoyed by sports.
In that case, where do the theaters and the distributors stand? Because, you know, today entertainment is literally in the palms of
Look, I think there's a space for it all. I don't think theaters are going to vanish.
They can coexist peacefully?
Absolutely. They should coexist peacefully because people want to go to the movie theaters from that perspective. Does it have this? See, I think we're still the most underpenetrated theater market in the world. It's a tough time right now for theaters.
Especially with the advent of OTTs now.
Yes, but that's the big challenge. There was a time 5 years back, if we had done that and overcapitalized or gone to that, today at a stage where you're hesitant about your own occupancy, to go out and do 4 times the capex is not a challenging. So I would not be, I just wouldn't like being in a place where the theater owners are looking at how to build their next 5-year plan, because it's not easy for them.
Right, so the big multiplexes will have to probably consolidate in order to have a deeper
They've already consolidated. I don't think there's any consolidation left in that space.
That's the reason why probably to target the markets going ahead. But also, speaking of passion projects, Ronnie, you have a passion project called Swades that you run with your wife. Tell us about that. What are you doing there?
So there, I would just say it's been a passion project for the last 35 years. So we started our NGO almost 35 years back when I was in my 20s, early 20s. So I think for a lot of people who think you only started when you have gray hair or you have a little bit of a bank balance is not true. So I think we started at a very early stage. We scaled it up since 2013-14, but our overall empowerment is we're focused on rural India at Swades, named after one of our movies where Shah Rukh Khan comes to India to meet his nani and then wants to light the bulb. And I think overall, when you look at that, there's incredible amount of work to be done in rural India. So our focus has been to take large geographies, a 360-degree model where we look at water, sanitation, health, education, livelihood all together, and see how over a period of 7 years we can make a dramatic change to change the GDP of that cluster. And empower them and actually able to exit yourself other than holding your little finger with them.
So lastly, we also wanted to understand, Ronnie, since you've spoken about your mainstream businesses as well as your hobby businesses and your future businesses also, how do you maintain a balance between all? You've spoken about spirituality also. Is that some kind of mantra? And how do you stay so fit? We know that you're above 60, in fact above 65 also. That's something very less people also know about.
Yeah, well, how do I balance that? I think firstly with a great and incredible team of members. But I think stepping from what I would call a for-profit boardroom discussion to a not-for-profit discussion. Stepping from a discussion where it's all about targets to a discussion where it's all about empowerment and how to empower a community is very, very exciting. And in between, if you can read a script and tell stories, there's so much buoyancy and so much excitement. So I don't see any motivation for me to not jump out of bed every morning and see what I want to necessarily do. So I think for a lot of people who say, what do you want to be known as? And I'm saying that's such a waste of time for somebody to say, so what do you want to be known as? Because I don't really care what I want to be known as.
You only go into the box once in life.
Yeah, and the fact is, today, if I think I can live my life mostly on my own terms and really enjoy myself, I think that's the best legacy that I can leave for myself.
Right. Right, on that note, Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio. So good that you could take the time out for us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Rise with India. We'll see you next week, same time. See you soon.